Our final category for the evening is the connector. The roar of the stadium may have been stilled in 2020, but Gatorade and Jill Abbott, head of consumer engagement, created an entirely new way of using the thrill of sports to entertain and inspire its consumers. To introduce Jill, please welcome Etienne Katz, global lead at Twitter. Etienne is also a longtime board member of ANA New York City, a member of its executive committee, as well as a past president. Etienne?
Thank you, Victoria. As many of you know, Twitter is what's happening in the world and what people are talking about. And oh, there was a lot to talk about last year. Think back to where you were in May of 2020 and how you were feeling. We were all in the middle of doing our best to manage our way through very unprecedented times. So many things were missing from our lives, but one aspect really stood out. We missed connecting with one another. So how does a brand help bridge that gap? A quote in Forbes stated, "Building social connectedness through nostalgia is an easy way to leverage optimistic feelings that often accompany walks down memory lane." With that insight, Gatorade knew exactly what to do. The acclaimed documentary about Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, was scheduled to debut later in 2020. Gatorade was not one of the exclusive sponsors of the documentary, yet they were so instrumental in the rise of Michael Jordan with their own Be Like Mike campaign throughout the 90s. Gatorade saw an authentic opportunity to fill our common void of the absence of sports and the joy associated with being a part of the roar of a stadium. The focus needed to be on how to open the vault of content with one generation while introducing another to Gatorade's brand heritage, and to do it sooner than later. To take us inside the amazing journey of how Gatorade and The Last Dance came together, I have the pleasure of introducing Gatorade's head of consumer engagement, Jill Abbott, the winner of the ANA Communicators of the Year Award in the Connector category.
Thank you. I am so excited and really honored to be here tonight to speak to you about the Gatorade Last Dance activation and to accept this award on behalf of Gatorade. So every Gatorade presentation starts with roughly the same thing. We talk about our mission and our belief. Our mission is to fuel athletic performance, and our belief is that performance starts from the inside. This is at the center of everything we do. It's what drives us forward. But why we do what we do comes back to the power of sport. And we know that sport can bring us together like absolutely nothing else. It lifts us up. It gives us something to work for, something to be inspired by, something to connect around. And we know that at their greatest, athletes can make the world stop in its tracks. But unfortunately, last year, something much, much bigger stopped the world, and it stopped sport. And at a time where we needed more than anything as a society to feel connected, to have something to rally behind, we no longer had sports play that role for us. And I know, at least for my team, we desperately, desperately missed it. So on to our friends at ESPN. We're all marketers, but we're all humans in the world first. And when ESPN announced that they were going to pull forward The Last Dance, we were absolutely fired up. We couldn't wait to watch it. It gave us something to look forward to. But then we're also marketers, so we very quickly put on our marketing hat and we started to talk about what do we do? How do we take a part in this massive, massive cultural experience? So we brought a couple of our partners together. TBWA Chiat Day out of LA, Swift out of Portland, and of course, Twitter. We talked to them about this situation. Everyone knew that live sports was on hold, and we all were anxiously awaiting this accelerated release of The Last Dance. We knew it was going to be one of the most epic moments of sport in 2020. And we talked about our opportunity. As a partner of MJ's, a long-term partner of MJ's, we felt that we were more than just a sponsor. We were more than just put your logo in here and add in a television spot. We wanted to actually be part of this cultural conversation. And so we gave the team the KPI of driving engagement with NBA Twitter surrounding The Last Dance documentary. And when we briefed our agencies and we briefed our partners, we were also fired up about the ideas that came in, that we couldn't just select one, we needed to do two of the lead ideas. The first one that I'll walk you through is reimagining Be Like Mike. So anyone who was a kid in the 90s probably, or any time before that, remembers the jingle, hopefully remembers some of the imagery, and really feels that sense of nostalgia for Be Like Mike. What we wanted to do was reconfigure that nostalgia, bring it back to those of us who remember it, but also invite a new generation of athletes to also be like Mike. So we took the original spot and we infused some new talent into it. We reached out to a few of our Gatorade partners, Elena, Jason, and Zion, and we asked them to film themselves trying to be like Mike, spending some time at home. Everybody was at home at that point in time. And just go and have fun, go and be inspired, go and do what you do when you're thinking about being like Mike. And we took that footage and infused it back into the original spot to create a hybrid spot that talked about the best in sport then, now, and forever. And I'll give you a minute to take a chance to see what we created.
Sometimes I dream that he is me. You got to see that's how I dream to be. A dream I move, a dream I groove.
Like Mike, if I could be like Mike, I'm gonna be like Mike. Like Mike, if I could be like Mike, be like Mike, if I could be like Mike, be like.
So we dropped the spot in social media, but we didn't want to just launch a 30-second spot that felt like anybody could just put a 30 out there. We wanted to be something that was a little bit more easy to communicate, easy to engage with, easy to be a part of versus just watch. So we cut down and created a number of GIFs. We know that for our teen athletes especially, the number one way that they communicate with each other is through text and DM. So we wanted to create these more snackable pieces of content that they could share back and forth. And then we also wanted them to be a part of Be Like Mike. So we dropped the song itself on Instagram and encouraged through a bunch of our friends at Gatorade and influencers, encouraged our teen athletes and our athletes everywhere to create their own version of the Be Like Mike spot. And by the numbers, we hit our goal. We were part of the conversation with Be Like Mike. So Be Like Mike, the hashtag, custom hashtag, trended 13 on the US on Twitter. We had over 800,000 earned media impressions. And one of the things that was really important to me is the content was really sticky. We had more than the industry average standard view rate. We hit 46% view rate, which beats the industry standard, but also beats Gatorade's average view rate of 30%. And of course, the bigger picture, we inspired an entire new generation to want to be like Mike. But we didn't want to stop there. We felt like, as I mentioned before, there was too many good ideas to just do one. So the next thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to extend the excitement around the Last Dance documentary and more specifically around the Bulls. And we wanted to showcase Game 6 live. So the concept here is that in the absence of live sport, we didn't have anything to watch. So let's re-air one of the greats. We partnered with the NBA and with Twitter to re-air the last game that the Bulls dynasty ever played together. And then we created a full experience, an immersive live watch party around it to give it more texture and more context. The nuts and bolts, we did a full rerun of Game 6 from the 98 finals between the Bulls and the Jazz, minus commercials with a few Gatorade intersection points here and there. When we did it, well, the last of the series ended on a Sunday night. I think we'd all gotten used to this, like Sunday night was the highlight of the week. And we were anticipating a big letdown after the last of the documentary aired. So we decided to re-air Game 6 the following Monday and give fans and athletes everywhere just one more infusion of sport in their lives. Where we did it on Twitter. It was a co-branded live Twitter event with Gatorade and our partners at the NBA. And then we wanted to do more than just rerun it. We also wanted to bring, as I mentioned, that context and texture. So we talked to athletes and sports personalities that could represent what happened back in 98, and also sports personalities and athletes that are really representative of sport today and where sport could be going. So we leaned into some of our broader partners from an athlete perspective, as well as leaning into platforms like Overtime to help bring that kind of more youthful voice into the activation. And the overview itself, it was a pretty short flight. So we thought about how do we hype this up? And we didn't want to spend too much time. We wanted to really pack a powerful punch. So as soon as the final episode of the documentary went live, we put full court press to get people to know that this new event was going to be happening the next night. We drove a lot of excitement and awareness for the live event through Twitter and using things like some more retro look and feel ads, former labels, things that are going to get people to really understand that they can have one more moment of live sport excitement. So 24 hours later, Monday night, that's where we allowed people to participate, or we invited people to participate. We had, of course, the game streaming, but that's where we had this live watch party, live tweeting, a lot of content going on around it. And then we thought about, how do we sustain that? Not everybody had had enough after that Monday night. So we continued to replay a few times, and then we integrated a lot of highlights throughout the Twitter universe and maintained a lot of brand integration so we could bring a brand message forward. And then by the numbers, so we had just shy of 2 million unique live stream views. This was over 2.5 years of total view time. And we trended again. Game 6 Live hit 22 in the US on Twitter. For our internal handles, we had our best performing Gatorade organic post of all time was tied to this event. And then we had over 10 million press impressions, which drove a lot of excitement and buzz in lieu of having a big paid support. And then for our athletes, more importantly, I think we just let them have a little bit more fun. And with that, I will say thank you again. We're very, very honored to be here, and I will hand it back to Victoria to finish up the evening.